All right, let's talk high-end GPUs. If you're building a new gaming rig right now, you've probably found yourself staring at two of AMD's heavy hitters, the Radeon RX 7900 XT and its bigger brother, the XTX. They come from the same family, sure, but they are built for two totally different kinds of gamers. So the big question is, which one is right for you? Let's figure it out. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with a quick intro to our two contenders. Then we're diving straight into the performance numbers, the stuff that really matters. After that, we'll peek under the hood at the specs, talk about the all-important price of power, and finally, we'll help you figure out which card is the perfect match for your build. Let's do this. Okay, here they are. Two top-of-the-line cards from AMD's RDNA 3 generation. They might look kind of similar, but they have completely different philosophies. One is all about smart, efficient horsepower, while the other is just pure, unrestrained, pedal-to-the-metal performance.
And this slide really nails the whole story. You've got the RX 7900 XT. Think of it as the efficiency king. It delivers an absolutely killer high-end experience without needing a monster power supply or emptying your wallet. And then you have the RX 7900 XTX, the 4K flagship. This is the no-compromise beast built to just crush games at 4K resolution. Okay, so that's the idea behind them. But let's be real. What we all really care about is how they actually perform, right? We're getting into the real meat of it now, the raw numbers. Spec sheets are one thing, but frames per second, well, that's the language we all speak. So this is a million-dollar question, isn't it? Or, I guess, the several $100 question. When you put them side by side in a demanding game, exactly how much more performance are you getting for that extra cash? Is it a tiny little bump, or is it a massive leap? And here we go. Let's look at some real-world examples. In a visual powerhouse like Cyberpunk 2077, the XTX pulls ahead by a solid 12 frames per second. But then you jump into a fast-paced shooter like Warzone, and wow, that lead widens to 25 FPS? So yeah, they're both incredibly powerful, but you can see a clear pattern. The XTX is consistently faster. So what does it all boil down to? Well, if you average out the performance across a whole bunch of different games at 1440p and 4K, you're looking at a pretty consistent 10 to 15% performance lead for the XTX. Now, keep that number in your head because it's going to be super important in a minute when we start talking about price. But hang on, a percentage doesn't tell the whole story. Context is everything. At 4K, that 10 to 15% is a huge deal. It can be the difference between hitting a rock-solid 60 FPS and dipping below it. At 1440p though, honestly, both of these cards are absolute monsters. And at 1080p, you might not even see that full difference because your CPU could start to be the bottleneck, just trying to keep up. So where does that extra performance actually come from? Let's pop the hood and look at what's really separating these two cards. We're talking specs, power requirements, and even the physical size of the cards themselves. And here's the tail of the tape. The biggest thing you'll notice is the VRAM. The XTX is packing a whopping 24 gigabytes compared to the XT's very respectable 20 gigs. That extra memory is going to be huge for future games with insane textures. But all that power comes at a cost. The XTX is thirstier, pulling about 40 more watts, and it needs a beefier power supply, an 850 watter at least. And it's not just about what it draws from the wall, it's about the space it takes up in your case. The XTX is a little bit longer, and you know what more power means? Yep, more heat. So if you're building in a smaller case, you absolutely have to make sure your airflow is on point. The last thing you want is your brand new GPU slowing itself down because it's getting too toasty. Okay, we've covered performance, we've covered specs. Now let's get to the topic that probably matters most to a lot of us, the price. Raw power is awesome, but value is king. How much is that extra 10–15% performance actually going to cost you? Now, prices are always changing, so keep that in mind, but generally speaking, the difference is significant. The RX 7900 XT usually lands around $579. The XTX, on the other hand, jumps way up to about $809. Yeah, that's a price gap of over $200. And that brings us to the ultimate question of value, right? We know the XTX is faster, and we know it's a lot more expensive. So, are you actually getting your money's worth for every single extra frame it pushes out? Well, the numbers here are pretty clear. When you do the math and look at frames per dollar, especially at 1440p, the RX 7900 XT is the hands-down winner. You are just getting more raw gaming performance for every single dollar you spend. So while the XTX wins the speed race, the XT absolutely takes the crown for best value.
So, with all that in mind, let's put it all together and find the right card for you. Because ultimately, the choice comes down to your monitor, the games you play, and of course, your budget. We've created 2 gamer profiles here. Let's see which one sounds like you.
First up, let's see. Are you a 1440p high refresh value hunter? So does this sound familiar? You game at 1440p, you've got a 144Hz monitor, and you want those buttery smooth high frame rates. But you're also smart with your cash, and when you see that $200 price difference, you're thinking, hey, that's a whole new SSD right there.
If you were just nodding your head, then this is an easy one. The Radeon RX 7900 XT is the slam dunk choice for you. It has more than enough power to absolutely crush 1440p gaming, and the value is just unbeatable. But maybe that's not you. Maybe you're on the other side of the fence. Are you the 4K ultra and modded gamer? This is the gamer who doesn't want to compromise. You're playing on a big 4K monitor, you're cranking every single setting to ultra, and you love downloading massive texture packs and mods. For you, that 24 gigabytes of VRAM isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
If that sounds like your battle station, then the choice is clear. The Radeon RX 7900 XTX is the card you need to be looking at. It was built from the ground up to deliver the absolute best 4K performance AMD can offer. And that huge VRAM buffer gives you incredible peace of mind for future titles.
Now, this has been the high-level breakdown to get you pointed in the right direction. If you want to see a ton more benchmarks and, most importantly, check out live, up-to-the-minute pricing, you can find the full data that inspired this explainer over at bestgpusforgaming.com. So there you have it, the XT for amazing 1440p value and the XTX for no-compromise 4K power. You've got all the data. But here's one final thought to chew on. In the world of PC hardware, the next big thing is always just around the corner. So is now the perfect time to lock in your build with one of these champs? That's the final piece of the puzzle. Thanks for watching.